Good morning, friends. Today we are discussing regarding SQL. SQL is a structured query language. When we come for a query language, we have two types of query language. One is a structured query language, another is unstructured query language. When we come in structured query language, we have an systematic ordered queries or tables data is stored in a systematic and in ordered way. But in unstructured, we do not have tables and rows perform queries, but for that we have a different source to perform a query language. Now let us discuss regarding structured query language. That let us discuss what is an application. It is a list of program which help us to perform uh, some particular task or action. An application is designed to perform some particular task or a targeted task to make our life simplify. For example, uh, like application like WhatsApp used for chatting and sending messages, text messages. Another is a Facebook, a web browsers and Facebook, Instagram are all examples of application. So when we come for application, we come across three different types of application. One is standalone application, another is web application, and client server application. A standalone application is a kind of application which no need of an external host or any web or any external data to be fetched. It is completely a single system or a single server based, where we are going it is going to perform all operations within a system inside the local host itself. It does not need any server or external ports to be accessed. And next is the web application, where here web application means there will be a interaction with the server, as well as along with the server we have to interact with the browser. For example, in web-based interaction, getting the data and fetching the data through the web application is called web-based application. Next is a client server application. Here we have a client separate and server. Here we are going to uh, client is going to getting the data and fetching, performing a code operation, getting fetching the data and updating the data and getting the data from the server, and a client interaction is called client server application. So here we can see this is the standalone system. And when we come for standalone system, access is faster as we are not going to use any external server. So here we can perform in standalone much faster rate. And uh, it is within our system, so no need of any issues in the server or any kind of errors we hardly will come across, and server down issue or any kind of other issues. And this is the web application. And here we can see example are Facebook, YouTube, etc. And next is a client server application. As we said, there will be a server, and one more is the client as an application app where we are getting the data. For example, getting into the Facebook, we will give a request to the server side, and it will get the data from the server, and we are going get the client will get the data. This is how client server architecture work. Standard structured query language. Uh, it is used to communicate or interact and manipulate the database. It is actual work of an SQL is to interact and manipulate the data which is present inside the database. So what can SQL do? Do you have any idea? Let us see. So SQL can execute queries against the databases. We can using the query we can interact with the database. That is where the SQL is going to be used. It is basically using query we are going to interact with the database, but when we come we can getting the data, retrieving the data, a code operation like retrieving or fetching the data from the database, inserting the records in the database, updating the records which are pre-present in the database, and deleting the record which we don't want, and creating a new tables for creating new databases, or creating a views like what we call views, like how some views are that it comes under Databricks concepts. Now, uh, let us come to the main direct concept. What is data? Data is a piece of value or a collections of value which is used to describe real-time object. it is, for example, we can say a data is a raw fact which describe the properties of an object, or in a simple words, uh, if a question arises, what is data? Data is a piece of value or a collection of value which is used to describe a real-time object. So, when you come for real-time object, for example, we have a mobile. Mobile will be considered as a real-time object, and the features are the values are the features. For example, color, maybe black color, a phone, or a price of 20K, a RAM of 32 GB, ROM of 512 GB, and camera of 12 MP. These are all the collections of values, which are the data. So data, further, the data can be classified into raw fact and information. Two types data can be classified: uh, raw fact and information. When we come for raw fact, the data is like the price of phone like 20K, or a color is black. Black itself is an raw fact. 20K, which does not specify what. For example, if we choose a color black, what exactly the black means for which it is going to trigger. And price like 20K, we don't know what 20K, 20,000. 20K means 20,000 price, so we don't have any idea. So for that we need an information. So information which is going to direct that raw fact to target value. For example, the price of mobile is 20,000. Such things will come up. It will direct in such way. Next, we'll come across databases. Database is a place or a media where we can store data in a systematic and organized way. So what exactly the database means? A place or a media. It's an place or a media where we can store the data in an systematic, as you know, the systematic and organized way manner. Means organizing the data properly in a systematic means, so that will keep our home very systematic, so that it look good and easy to get the things where it has been kept, and a proper ordering of the things is very necessary. So for that purpose, it is like such a things where we are going to store, and we should get those data properly, means to get the data as fast as possible, because we need the data. We should perform operation very fast with the operations. Okay. Next is the basic operation that can be performed on database are CRUD operation. CRUD means CRUD, which means C means create or insertion of a data, R means read or retrieval of a data, U means update or modifying the data, and D means drop or deleting the data. So these operations are universally known as CRUD operation. So next is database management system. What is DBMS? DBMS is it is a kind of a software which is used to maintain and manage the data. So for managing and maintaining the data, we use the software DBMS. Uh, the security and the authorization are the two important key feature prioritized by the DBMS, because the security of the data is as much as necessary. I means we can say the secure whatever for example, we have a company, means we need this we make sure, for example, we have other data in our database, so we need the data should be safe and secured, and the security comes in a point, and giving the authorization for the data for a particular other updater, and only the end user for their limited for their data itself, and one person cannot access the data of other person, of an unknown person. Such things are very important for the security and authorization of a particular person to their other itself, to their data itself. The DBMS concept is used. It means those are the key concept features provided by the DBMS. We can use query language to communicate and interact with this DBMS. In that, we are going to use SQL is one of the query language which we are going to use. So next, okay, RDBMS. So let us Any DBMS which follows the relational model is called as RDBMS. So quickly, let us go through the history of an SQL in a short and simpler way. So I will brief you out directly. So SQL was first designed by Raymond Boy in the year 1970, and the father of SQL is known as Raymond Boy. And EF Code designed the relational model in the year 1972, and EF Code is called as co-father of an SQL. In olden days, SQL exactly we can say they used to call it as a SQL, means simple English query language. Once the ANSI, American National Standard Institute, took over the SQL and they changed name to SQL, which is structured query language. So let us uh, directly go to the features of DBMS and RDBMS. So we can perform code operations and provide the security and authentication are the main features. So next, let us go through what is table. Table is a combination of rows and columns. So rows are also called as records or tuples. And table is also called as entity object, and columns are also called as attributes or fields. So when you come for table it is a logical organization of data which consists of rows and columns. We can say rows and columns together make a table. And when you come for columns, a column is also known as attribute or field. Column is used to represent the properties of all the entity. Means in a we can define what kind of data is present in that row. For example, email ID means in that column only email ID of all the members will be present. If the column name is phone number means all the phone number data will be present, and it also specify what kind of data type the column consists of. Then the row is the it is used to represent all the properties of a single entity. Means all the properties of any single persons are each person's. For example, employees entire details will be there in a single row. And cell is the smallest unit of a table which we store the data. The interaction of a row and column generates the cell. So here is an typical example where uh, this is this is the EMP table where EMP table which consists of three columns and three rows. First row is employee ID, employee name, and salary, and of employee ID of employee, and there are three rows. One is the Smiths, Alan, and Claire. Okay, now let us discuss regarding rules of EF code. There are four rules of EF code. First is the data entered in a cell must be single valued. So it means that we single valued means atomic. Here we can only enter a single data for a in a table or in a table and a particularly each cell we can enter only single value. We cannot enter more than one value in a single cell. More than one data cannot be stored in a single cell. According to F code, we can store the data in a multiple table. It is it necessary or okay. According to F and next, so let us go for second rule. According to F code, we can store the data in a multiple table. If necessary, we can establish a relationship between the tables with the help of key attributes. The key attributes such as primary key and foreign key. So what it exactly means is according to F code, there we can create a multiple table. For example, employee details in one table and department details in another table. So if we want to attach some data from employee details and based on some employee details we want to fetch the department details. So in that case we are going to use the foreign key and primary key concepts, which will be discussed in further process. Next is rule number third rule of EF code. In RDBMS, we store everything in the form of table, including the metadata. So, for example, uh, I was telling you regarding the EF codes rule number three. Here, as I told, in RDBMS we can store everything in the form of a table, including the metadata. So we can store data as well as the metadata uh, in RDBMS. For example, a JPG format or any image or any text, we can store its metadata in the itself. But single data can be stored here. So next comes is EF codes rule number 4. Here the data entered into the table must be validated. Means we can validate the data by assigning the data type and a constraint. The data types are a mandatory, whereas the constraints are optional. So I mean to say the data entered in the table must be validated, means whatever the data we enter, it should be validated, means we should specify the data type while creating the column, and also we should mention the constraint like whether it is a null, not null, and those things are optional. So next comes in data types. Before that, let's there comes the data types. The data types is used to specify or determine the type or a kind of a data that will be stored in a particular memory allocated. Means data type means for each column we should specify which kind of data is going to be stored in that column. So when we come for data types, we basically come across five different data types: char, varchar or varchar2, and third is the number, date, and large objects. So large object, again they are classified as two types: character large objects and binary large objects. So one by one we are going through the each data type. So first one is a char. It is a data type where we can store the characteristics such as what we say, numbers, alphabets, and special characters. And the syntax for char is char, and here we can see the syntax for char, which is char and the size, where we will specify how much the size of an worker. Means if you write 2, means we can write a character like a, b, r. uh, we can write a a, b, r, 1, 4 something, but we cannot write numericals. Whenever we use char data type, we must specify the size. That's a compulsory thing. Because what the size should be, we should specify the size of the characters. And when we come for size, it should be used to specify the number of characters that can be stored. We can store maximum up to 2000 characters, and characters must always be within a single quotes. That's the rule. Means whenever we are going to enter character data inside a column or inside a cell, we should enclose it with the single quotes while performing insertion operation. And character data type follows fixed length memory allocation, and default size of character is 1. If we don't specify, default size will be 1. So next, uh, if you size of a character data type, it may be caps or small. So here we can see uh, there will be 8 columns where will be allocated for that column. For whenever we enter, the data will be stored in that column itself, where if we write Krish as a name, KRISH, means this will be allocated value, and the remaining will be unallocated value, which is a wastage of a memory. And but it will be default, it will be there as a null, something empty. So next comes a varchar or varchar2. Varchar is a data type uh, where we can store characters such as same, but in varchar, the it is a type of